state of the church that I'm required to give to you later on. But what I've just passed out to you is an agenda and a packet that we'll go over in a second. But let's begin with a prayer. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we give you thanks for this church, for this place, for this community. We ask that you would strengthen us to do your work in the world. Help us to be mindful of others and to serve you in all that we do. All this we ask in your Son's holy name. Amen. The first thing we're supposed to do is determine if there's a quorum. I'm not really sure how we do that, but I'm going to say there is, unless anyone has any objection to that. All right. That harkens back to when you had membership rolls that were very precise and people kept up, but churches don't do that anymore, and so it's very hard to determine a quorum when you don't really know membership. So anyway, that's where that comes from. Our senior warden, Mike Boff, was planned to be here last Sunday to give a little presentation, but if you look on the second page of your packet there, you have a report from him, which kind of outlines much of what he wanted to say. The packet also has reports from the junior warden, from stewardship, membership, and pastoral care committees. So I'd encourage you to just take those home and look at them. I have them write those up so that we don't have to listen to them. But if you have questions about them, certainly contact any of those people, and they can fill in any blanks that you might have there. The next thing that we need to look at is the financial statement. I'm going to give you kind of the rundown on this, and then if you have questions, things, Joanne is here, and she can answer. If you look in your packet, you'll see this page. There's kind of two versions here. We have a financial overview on the front, and then there's one that's a little more in depth on the back. To give you the highlights, our total operating revenue for the year ended up at $145,000. I think we had budgeted, well, for 2014 there you see that our total operating was $112,000, so that was a big increase. And we ended up with a surplus of $11,382. Now, along with that, some things that got absorbed into the budget were $4,500 for new heat pump at the rectory, $5,000 for the parking lot out here, which we haven't been able to do yet, but we set the money aside to patch and seal the parking lot out here. A wood splitter and chainsaw for the firewood ministry. So there's some major expenses that got absorbed into the budget, and still we had this $11,000 surplus. On top of that, we got a couple of bequests from estates in the amount of $48,854, which got added to our savings for a total savings and investments of $246,975,000. So that's kind of the finances in a nutshell. Questions about that? All right, that's what I thought. So I do have here, just in my hand, many of you saw this back in the fall when we were putting this together. There's more copies in the back there if anybody wants it, but this is our budget for 2016. In the Episcopal Church, we don't typically present that to the congregation, but it is available for you if you want to look at it. I just want to note some of the changes. We're looking at a total income of $150,000. So as I said, we finished this year at $145,000. Next year we made a budget for $150,000. A couple of areas of increase in that. One major area was our outreach. Taking our outreach budget from $3,600 to $10,000 next year to try to find more ways to reach out to our community and to continue to support some of the ministries that we have going. The other big piece was a raise for me, and that accounts for some of the changes to next year's budget. But if you want a copy of that, like I said, on your way out, feel free to grab one and you can look over that as well. All right. What is next on the agenda? All right, I want to do some recognition of several folks. First of all, we have some vestry members that have served that will be rotating off the vestry this year. I want to make note of that. Marshall Brooks, his term will be finishing up now, and served a term on the vestry, so thank you for that. Joe Carter finished out another term for somebody. He'll be rotating off. And then Mary Ann Ransom, who I know is here somewhere, is going off a 3-year rotation as well. So I want to say thank you to all of those people for I have a few other specific thank yous. If you will, just stand up. Joanne Ellingson. We have just a little gift certificate here. Joanne does a lot of things here at the church, but one of the main things she does is she serves as our treasurer. And she's here every week for several hours at least doing that and other things. She also leads our choir. And so we wanted to just say it's a small token of thank you, but thank you for the work you do. Harriet serves as our church secretary, does the bulletins and does a variety of things here at the church. And so also I want to say thank you to you as well. Well, there are a few ministries that I'm going to talk more in depth about a little bit later, but over the last couple of years we've had some good things start. The most important of which, in my opinion, being our nursery and Sunday school. I've said before I had children, that I thought that serving our kids is the most important thing we do at church. Children are impressionable, and their experience of church and God at that age is so incredibly important to how they move forward and how they think of God and the church in the future. So, with that said, we had Amy Spangers, Carl Ann Sherping, and Gloria Anders all stepped up to help with the Sunday school. Gloria's next door right now, and Amy was at the early service, and Carl Ann's not here. But remind me after the piece, if Gloria comes over here, we'll definitely give her a gift certificate as well. But remind her to thank her. And then Barbara Malden stepped up to do the nursery. I think Barbara's in the nursery today as well. So I want to make sure we thank them, and if you see them, make sure you thank them for being willing to step up and do those important ministries. And the last person that I was wanting to thank was Mike Boff, who served as the senior warden this past year. Mike came into the job with quite a bit of trepidation. He wasn't real sure that he was the right person for the job, and we're still not sure if he was. I'm not here so I can pick on him. But no, Mike did a good job, put a lot of energy, a lot of passion and effort into the job, pushed us in a lot of new and different ways, challenged the vestry and the church to do some different things. So it was a very good experience, and he was a good support to me as well. So we have a certificate for him, and be sure to thank him as well when you see him in the coming weeks. He has gone, he's in Ohio. He's taking his granddaughter to a father-daughter dance. He couldn't be here today. So that covers the thank you portion. Now, election for new vestry members. I have on here the slate that we have. We have Marta Campbell, if you raise your hand. I know I saw Marta over here. Yeah, Marta has agreed to run for a 3-year term. Julie is agreed to a 3-year term, and assuming you all don't say absolutely not to her, I've asked her to be the senior warden for this upcoming year as well. And Barbara Malden, who is rotating off of fulfilling a 1-year term for somebody, has agreed to do another 1-year term to fill out somebody else's. Now, we do still have open one 3-year term. I would encourage you, if you know someone, or if you yourself would be interested in serving on the vestry, to come and talk to me about that. Now, as part of the annual meeting, we do open the floor. We have to open the floor to nominations, but that you have to have already asked that person's permission to nominate them. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, so if you haven't done that already, don't start trying to shame anybody into doing it. Do we have anybody who that's the case for that you've already identified and are going to nominate? All right, that's what I figured. So the way this will move forward is the vestry will then look for people and will vote to bring someone in to fill this position. So if you have an interest in doing this, come and see me or Julie, and we can talk about that. But we do need to take a vote on the three candidates that are presented: Marta, Julie, and Barbara. I was just going to do this with a show of hands.
I make a motion.
All right, it's been moved, seconded. All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Surely somebody's going to oppose. Okay. All right. That passes. The next thing we have to do is elect our delegates to the annual convention that happens in the fall. The slate that we have here, again, we're just going to do this with a raise of hands. And we have Harry Taylor and Chuck Haley have agreed to be delegates, and alternates Carl Ann Sherping and Mary Ann Ransom. Do we have any other nominations? Same as before, you have to be pre-approved to do that.
I make a motion that we elect
Okay.
the slate.
All right, it's been moved. Anyone want to second that?
I second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's easy enough. Next on the agenda is any additional business. Is there any other business that we need to take care of? Questions that you all have before I kind of tell you the stuff that I'm supposed to talk about?
What
Anybody
did we
have?
hear from Haiti?
Okay. The question was, what do we hear from Haiti? Two of our members, Laura and Kathy, are down there now. Things are going really well. You know, I don't want to say too much. I'll let them tell you about it when they get back. But I think they've been really pleased, particularly with the classes that they've been teaching with teaching people there how to sew and how to sew specifically the diapers and feminine hygiene products that we've been making here and sending all over the world. Of the 8 people, 4 men, 4 women, and it looks like they're going to be able to get some funding to, I think 3 or 4 of them, to start a small business doing this. And so it's not just helping the orphanage or helping those people, but it's potentially going to give these people an opportunity to be able to make a living. And they'll be able to come to the orphanage there and use the machines that we donated and took down there to do this work. So, it might have bigger impact than they expected. So, but I think things are going well. Thank you. Other questions? Things before I get into my part. All right. With that, then, I will do mine. Now, I do have to say, I'm going to apologize here ahead of time. I am used to getting up and speaking, obviously, but not like this. Hopefully on Sundays when I have a sermon, there's one point. I'm sure that's not always the case. But in a presentation like this, there's multiple points. So if I start rambling, just bear with me. A few of the things that I'm required to tell you about. We had 2 baptisms this past year. We had 1 marriage, no confirmations, and 3 funerals. The other piece that I'm required to tell you is the ASA, which is average Sunday attendance for 2015 was 73. That was our average Sunday attendance. Now, I want to reiterate some facts that I shared with you all last year. And this is from the church's research arm, finds these things. These are just a few of the facts, but there's a lot more of them. But they're studying what makes churches grow, what makes churches likely or not likely to grow. It says congregations in which more than 75% of the active members are 50 or older are very unlikely to grow. They are also more likely to be located in rural areas and smaller towns, which also make them unlikely to grow. And it says it's clear that in the first 2 years of a priest's tenure in a congregation, that tends to be the worst time for growth. And churches with part-time or supply priests are most likely to be in decline. So we fit all of those, obviously. And yet, in 2013, the average Sunday attendance was 47. And in 2015, it said 73. That's slightly over 50% increase. In the Episcopal Church, only 1 in 5, 20% of churches report growing 10% over a 5-year period. So only 20% of churches are growing 2% a year. I say all that, excuse me, I say all that to point out the fact and to reiterate, as I did last year, that what you all have accomplished in the last 2 years is amazing. It's amazing. Tremendous, tremendous growth. 50%. And while attendance and numbers aren't the most important thing by any stretch of the imagination, they are one of the few ways that we have to measure energy and enthusiasm in a church. And so I commend you all for the work that you've done. And one of the things that I want to point out, that I want to say to you all, that I want to stress, and I hope you'll hear, is that you all do a really good job of all the things that you all do. I think one of the things you do best is welcoming new people in. Now, that's not to say we're perfect at it. Not to say that we can't do better. But you do a really good job of welcoming new people in. I think you genuinely, and I've been at half a dozen churches now in various ways, and I've seen this. You all genuinely like people and want them here. You laugh. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. And so that is so incredibly important, that you all want people here, that you want people to be a part of this community, that you want to share what you have here with others. I want to commend you for that, and I want to encourage that to grow and to continue in the future. The other piece of that is that you all seem to be willing, at least from what I hear, to invite people to come to church. That's not always the case either, and that's a big deal. You all know people in this community. For better or worse, I spend most of my time with you all. And so you all are the ones who know new people. You all are the ones who have your hands and fingers in the community and are able to invite and welcome new people in. So I appreciate and I commend the fact that you all are doing that, and I would encourage you to continue to do more of that. I want this church to grow. I want us to grow not just for the numbers, but I want us to grow in what we're able to do for one another and for this community. And to have more faces, more bodies, more ideas, more energy is a good thing, and it will help with that. That leads into some of the things that I wanted to talk about from this past year, or really, I guess you'd say, year and a half. Some of the things we've talked about, I mentioned earlier, the nursery and Sunday school. Again, I think that's some of the most important work we do as a church. And it's important, I want to say that in a church that, as we said, it says more than 75% are 50 or older. When I got here, 100% were 50 or older. And yet, even in that 100% of 50 or older, you all still chose to want to have Sunday school and nursery, to want to welcome those young people, to say, we care about somebody other than ourselves. That's huge. It may sound like a small thing, but it's not. In a church, in any organization, when people are trying to look out for one another instead of just themselves, that's when you get some good health. That's when good things can happen. And so I appreciate the fact that you all are willing to start those and that you're willing to staff them and do them. A lot of you are involved in that in one way or another. And so I want to encourage you to keep doing that. There are new ways that we're doing that. The TCW is putting together, and it had to get rescheduled for the snow, but a movie night to bring the kids of the church and the community in. Bring the kids in, let them have pizza and a movie and just a fun night. And some of the ladies of the TCW get to come and get to know the kids a little better. Parents get to go have dinner somewhere else and get away. So that's a great example of caring about the other. And if you all can keep doing that, then I truly believe that good things can keep happening. Caring about the other is so important. Our AD groups, that's something new that we started. There's about 25 people in the church involved in 5 groups. AD stands for Accountability and Discipleship. These are groups that get together every 2 to 3 or 4 weeks and do just what we said, try to encourage one another in our relationships with God and with others. It's not just about our spiritual life. At least in my group, most of what we talk about is our relationships with the people around us and our struggles and our hopes and our excitement and what's good and bad. But the accountability part is, I come to the group and say, look, I'm really struggling with this. I need you all to hold me accountable for this. This is what I'm hoping to do with this, and when I come back in 2 weeks, I'm going to tell you how I've done. And there's been a lot of good things, at least from what I've gathered from people. A lot of good things have come out of these groups and people supporting one another. I don't know about you all, but in my lifetime, and I expect most of your all's, we don't often have or set aside times or groups where we have those kind of serious, in-depth conversations about our struggles, our fears, our joys. That's just not something that we as human beings do a lot of. But this is an opportunity for that, and I think it's going to continue to provide good things to the individuals and to this church as well. So I encourage you, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, come and talk to me, and we can tell you more about that. Bare Necessities, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. Bare Necessities is our group that does diapers and feminine hygiene products. This, again, is a great example of how great things can happen from someone saying, I could do that, okay? I had 1 or 2 people who said, this seems like a good thing. I want to get involved in that. I want to learn how to make those diapers. And then when they learned, they said, well, let me take this to the church and see if they're interested. And they took it, and they were. And so out of that small group, they've sent hundreds of reusable cloth diapers and feminine hygiene products now to 4 continents. They're here locally as well in the Gorge and down at Thermal Belt Outreach in Polk County. But they're also on 3 other continents as well, helping people. And not only has it affected our church, but people from other churches all over Western North Carolina have sent money, have sent materials, have sent prayers and support. People who don't even go to Episcopal churches stepped up and donated 2 sewing machines for the group that's going down there now. Because they heard about it and thought it was a good thing. They worked at a sewing machine manufacturer and got 2 sewing machines and sent them down. So these things have a way of growing far beyond what we can see from the get-go. We don't have to be able to see all the answers in order to respond to that tug, in order to respond to that nudging to do something. I said before, and I'll say again, nobody's asking any of us to do everything. But we are asked to do something. Do something. And great things can happen out of that. The last ministry that I had on here is our firewood ministry. Again, that's a simple ministry. 4 or 5 of us guys once a week, or weather dependent, get together and we cut and split firewood and take it to people who need it.